Hello everyone, and welcome to Basketball Basics for Officials. This is week 1 of our series, which is brought to you by the University of Texas at Arlington Intramural Sports. My name is Matt Holmquist, and I'm the coordinator for sport programs here at UTA Campus Recreation. The goal for this series is to give a foundational understanding of the game of basketball. It speaks primarily toward those who currently officiate or are learning to officiate the game. This series is a starting point for more in-depth videos to come, as well as a way to be able to learn more at in-person trainings by having these foundational concepts covered here. This week we'll take a look at how the game is played, just a general overview, and we'll also take a look at some basketball terminology so that we're all speaking the same language throughout. And we'll take a look at some foundational rules for the game. Next week, we'll actually get into some officiating basics, including what mechanics are, and some deeper rules analysis and some philosophies. Here's a brief overview of how the game of basketball is played. We'll have 2 teams of 5 players each, a time limit. Depending on where you play, there'll be quarters or halves. A team scores points by trying to shoot the ball into a goal for 2 or 3 points, depending on where you're standing on the court. The offense is the team with the ball trying to score, and they can pass, dribble, shoot, set a screen, or call a timeout. And the defense is the team that is trying to prevent the offense from scoring and also trying to get the ball back. If they get the ball back, they then become the offense. The defense can steal the ball, block a shot, or guard an offensive player with or without the ball. The space the basketball is played on is called the court. Let's take a look at some terminology surrounding a basketball court. When sports officials talk, it is very important to use the correct terminology. What if one official simply says the out-of-bounds line, while the other says the sideline? They may be referring to 2 different lines, or they may be referring to the same line. This is why this matters. Make sure as you learn terminology of the court that you're specific. You should also extend this practice when we begin learning about officiating rules and mechanics. The team bench is the area where each team sits. Players should be seating when not playing on the court. In between the bench area is the scorer's table. The scorekeeper will sit here. This is where officials will be looking when they report fouls. This is also the general area that substitutes come to when they would like to enter the game and replace a player. Here we have the restraining circle. This is where the jump ball happens. We'll talk about the jump ball in a bit, but this circle is the restraining line within which the 2 players participate in the jump ball. All other players must be outside of this restraining circle. This is the sideline, the same as the sideline on the other side of the court. This is the end line. It has been referred to as the baseline, but the correct term is end line. The division line is what separates a team's front court from its back court, and the free throw line is the line that a player will stand behind to attempt free throws. Within this line is the free throw lane, and this free throw lane, just like the free throw line, is the same on both ends of the court. And these are the lane spaces. These are where the other players, who are not the player who is attempting the free throw, stand during free throws. And this is the 3-point line or arc. Any try for goal within this arc counts as 2 points, while any try for goal behind this arc counts as 3 points. If a player is stepping on the line, they are therefore not behind the line, and the try would count for 2 points. Some other terminology that helps us as we communicate about a basketball game includes the backboard, the basket, which consists of the ring, and the net, and the possession arrow. We'll talk about what possession arrows are used for later in this series. The game begins with a jump ball. This is how the ball is put into play. Each team has 1 player who competes with the other for this jump ball, and the other 4 players from each team may line up anywhere on the court outside the center restraining circle. Once the jump ball is finished and a team gains possession, the teams try to score on their basket. A team's own basket is the basket they're trying to score a goal upon. As the game begins, each team faces their own basket, the one that they're trying to score on. This is in the opposite direction of their bench. In this picture, the blue team will be trying to score a goal on this basket. The right half is blue's front court, and the left half is the team's back court. The red team will be trying to score a goal on this basket, with their front court being the left half of the court in which they're trying to score, and the back court being the right half. Again, notice that the teams are going opposite their bench, and that the jumper is facing the goal they're trying to score on. In the second half, the alternating possession arrow decides who gets possession. We'll talk about the arrow in a future video. The teams switch directions and try to score on the opposite basket than they did the first half. The ball is thrown in to begin the second half, rather than a jump ball like the first half. The ball will be thrown in at the division line opposite the table. In this case, the red team has the ball to begin the second half, and as you'll notice, they begin at the division line opposite the table, and most of the players are in red team's front court. Red is going from left to right in this scenario. Let's take a look at some of the rules of gameplay. The players must advance the ball by dribbling or passing. Dribbling is simply bouncing the ball on the floor, and the opponent can steal or hit a dribble, but once the player stops dribbling, they may not begin dribbling again. If they do, the violation is a double dribble. Traveling is a common violation where the player holding the ball moves their feet illegally. The players must also keep the ball in bounds. If a player steps on the sideline or end line, or the ball touches out of bounds after last touching a player, possession is given to the other team. The other team would then put the ball into play via a throw-in. The throw-in will be at the spot of where the ball goes out of bounds or where the player steps on the out of bounds line, whether that be the sideline or the end line. Again, remember to be specific when you are referring to the lines. A screen can be set, and a screen is a legal action by a player who prevents an opponent from reaching a desired position. Most often this is done by the offense, to either create an opportunity for an offensive player to get open for a pass, or to create an opportunity for the player with the ball to shoot. The screener cannot cause contact. This is one of the biggest rules of screens. A shooter is a player who is trying for goal. A try begins when a player begins the shooting motion. A player who is fouled in the act of shooting is awarded free throws, where they will be behind the free throw line and other players will line up around the free throw lane. So what is a foul? Well, a foul is an infraction of the rules that is penalized. A personal foul is a player foul that involves illegal contact with an opponent while the ball is live. A common foul is a personal foul against a player who is not a shooter that is not flagrant, intentional, or a technical foul. The penalty for a common foul is that the opposing team gets the ball out of bounds for a throw-in. If a player is fouled in the act of shooting, this is when they are awarded free throws. If the shot is unsuccessful, the player is awarded 2 free throws if it was a 2-point try that they were attempting, or 3 free throws if it was a 3-point try. If that try is successful, the points for the try count, and the player is awarded 1 free throw. An intentional foul is a specific type of foul. It is a personal or a technical foul that may include contact that neutralizes an opponent's obvious advantageous position, contact away from the ball with an opponent who is clearly not involved with the play, contact that is not a legitimate attempt to play the ball or a player that is specifically designed to stop the clock or keep it from starting, or excessive contact with an opponent while the ball is live or until an airborne shooter returns to the floor. Notice that all of these rise above the level of a regular common foul. Finally, one of the intentional fouls includes contact with someone who's throwing the ball in from the out-of-bounds lines. A flagrant foul is a personal or technical foul of a violent or savage nature. And these may include, but aren't limited to, a personal foul that's violent contact such as striking, kicking, or kneeing, or a technical foul, which is dead ball contact or non-contact. The penalty for either an intentional or a flagrant foul is 2 free throws for the other team and the ball at the point of interruption. Another type of foul is the technical foul. This is a non-contact foul by a player and can be as a result of a non-sporting act. We can also assess a technical foul to the bench as a whole. The penalty for a technical foul is 2 free throws for the opposing team, but in this case, the opposing team gets the ball at the division line opposite table rather than at the point of interruption. Make sure you know what the enforcement is for these penalties. Back to personal fouls. Let's take a look at 2 specific types of personal fouls that help us when we have different game situations. A player control foul is a common foul committed by a player while they are in control of the ball. This also includes an airborne shooter. A team control foul is a common foul committed by a member of the team that has team control. Within contact fouls, some contact fouls can occur in these ways: holding, pushing, charging, tripping, or impeding the progress of an opponent, contacting an opponent with the hand, inhibiting the freedom of movement of another player, a dribbler charging into or creating contact with an opponent, or not abiding by verticality rules. This will be covered next week. Some fouls that can happen against a ball handler and dribbler include placing two hands on the player, placing an extended arm bar on the player, placing and keeping a hand on the player, or contacting the player more than once with the same hand or alternating hands. Every personal and technical foul is counted towards a team's total fouls. As the team commits fouls, the scorekeeper will keep track of how many fouls the team commits. If the foul is a common foul and not a shooting foul, we treat the seventh foul a little bit differently. Beginning with a team's seventh foul in each half, a bonus free throw is awarded to the opposing team. If the first free throw is successful, a second is awarded. This occurs for the 8th and 9th fouls as well. We also call this a 1-and-1 because you get one free throw, and if you make that one, you get another. Beginning with a team's 10th foul in each half, 2 free throws are awarded whether or not the first one is successful. We call this the double bonus, 2 shots. It's very important to note that these fouls must not be shooting fouls. They already get free throw shots for those fouls. And they cannot be player control or team control fouls. Go back to the definitions of what a player control or team control foul is to make sure that we are not awarding teams bonus or double bonus free throws when a player control or team control foul happens. We've looked at some fouls, now let's take a look at some violations. A violation is a type of rule infraction that falls under 3 categories: floor violations, basket interference or goaltending at the other team's basket, and free throw violations. We talked about travel and double dribble, 2 types of violations, already this week. Throw-in violations occur when you violate the rules of throw-ins. A throw-in must be thrown directly onto the court before 5 seconds have passed. This could be a 5-second violation or simply a throw-in violation. A player cannot intentionally kick the ball. This is a violation as well. A player cannot excessively swing their arms or elbows. They can extend their elbows to hold the ball. They can pivot or move with the ball. But excessive swinging of the arms and the elbows is a violation, even if there's not contact. If a player is closely guarded in the front court, they cannot hold the ball for 5 seconds or dribble the ball for 5 seconds. This is also called a 5-second violation. Let's look at an example of a 5-second violation for closely guarded. For example, let's say this is the second half and red is going from left to right. If this blue player comes up to guard the red player may hold the ball for just under 5 seconds and then dribble for just under 5 seconds and pick the ball back up and hold it for just under 5 seconds. He's no longer eligible to dribble, so at that point he must shoot or pass. If at any point he holds the ball or dribbles while the blue player is guarding him closely and does so for 5 seconds, it is a 5-second violation, and blue will be given possession of the ball for an out-of-bounds throw-in. As the team is bringing the ball to their front court, they have 10 seconds to get across the division line. If they don't, it's a 10-second violation. And once the team has been in control in the front court, and a player's team was the last to touch it in the front court, it is a backcourt violation to be the first to touch the ball in the backcourt. It is not a violation if the ball was deflected from the front court by the defense. Let's look at these using the court as a tool. Red is bringing the ball from the backcourt to their front court. They must cross the division line within 10 seconds, or else this is a 10-second violation. Here we have an example of a backcourt violation. Red is again in their front court and is the last to touch the ball in the front court. They then go to the backcourt and are the first to touch it there. This is a backcourt violation, and a throw-in will be awarded to the blue team at the out-of-bounds spot nearest to where the violation occurred.